Hello and welcome. This is Jesse Gilmore, and welcome to Visualization and Lucid Dreaming. Now, this one's going to be a little different because a lot of times people don't really think about visualization as part of time management, but it ultimately is. And the more that you're able to get clearer on your vision and be able to, quote unquote, see into the future, and you're able to focus your time in the day, or the week, or the month, or the year, all based around your vision, right? And if you followed us so far, we've really gone into time management, carved out 8 to 10 hours, went into morning routines and four-dimensional living, nighttime routines, power of sleep. And then we got into creating space through meditation. And last week was really focused on flow state and deep work, kind of that laser focus. And really, when we're looking at, visualization, it's really based around this idea of having clarity in your future. So I added a couple different sources here and research, because a lot of times people think about visualization as being something woo-woo or mystical or not true or whatever. And they feel the same. A lot of times they say the same thing about affirmations, which are actually true as well. But a study found that individuals who imagined exercise that didn't do anything actually increased their strength by 35% in certain muscles. And that's kind of an interesting thing. And I included the source on there just in case you want to fact check me. And then there's also this really kind of like this idea of a story of a person doing mental chess. So, and then ultimately becomes like a world champion. So kind of a crazy thing, but visualization is really powerful. And ultimately what it does is it makes you have clarity on your future self. So the person who you desire to be, right? As opposed to making that some kind of like based around different circumstances or cultural beliefs or cultural norms of what you should be. You're actually starting to define what that is for you, because ultimately not everybody wants to have an 8-figure business or, is willing to commit to, growing at a certain rate. Maybe they want to have, passion projects and be able to do that as opposed to the business being such a big thing, So anyway, understanding that clarity of future is really important. So how does that relate to time management? I kind of talked a little bit about this, but if you have clarity, anytime that you're thinking about where you are and where you want to go, you have this current state, which is who you are, future state, which is where you want to go, and there's always a gap. And if you're focused on that gap constantly of where you are right now and that you're not achieving whatever you're wanting to achieve, you're going to have a lot of pain from that. And being able to visualize and kind of bring into your reality your future self now, you start to focus on who you're becoming, right? And this is really where if you're focused on who you're becoming, you start to take a step out of who you were yesterday, and you're starting to embrace a new or improved version of you now. And visualization is really important, and you can create a vision map. So I did this a long time ago. I also did it in 2019, right before COVID and everything, and that's actually how I started Niche and Control, and really having this kind of vision for the future. And a lot of times what you can do, and I'm kind of moving throughout this in a non-sequential manner, because the vision map, you can start to look at different milestones. So if you were to think about clarity of who you want to be, where you want to go, and you're starting to visualize and get really clear on that, you can reverse engineer it. So you can start looking at, okay, what would it look like at a halfway point? How would I know that I'm on track at a halfway point, right? How do I know that I'm there in 3 months? How would I know that I'm there in 1 month? How would I know that I'm on track in 1 week? How would I know I'm on track today? And that vision map is where you're starting to look at milestones between where you are right now and where you want to go. What milestones need to happen? So for me, starting up Niche and Control, that was one of those milestones. I knew that being an employee was not for me. I've been an entrepreneur forever, so being in corporate America, I knew one of the milestones was to get out of being an employee. And then the next thing was hitting 10,000 a month in consulting. Another one was 30,000. I've hit these, each time. So, and for my next one, it's 50,000 and then 100,000. So I already have kind of like these milestones, and that's what a vision map really is kind of understanding those milestones. Now, if you can put any visual images as a representation of those milestones, that also really helps too, because then there's a little bit more clarity based around vision as opposed to just words. And being able to find mental clarity and avoid distractions, this kind of goes back to the previous module, which was really based around flow state and deep work and removing distractions and having a singular focus by planning tomorrow today and things like that. And being able to do that allows you just to be in the moment. And when you have everything else kind of covered, and you've gone into that deep work, it's so much easier for you to visualize. And if you've meditated and created space, it allows you to kind of see into the future because you're not so focused on trying to fight fires right now. You've created space from the stimulus to response. All things that were covered in previous trainings. So there's some ways to utilize visualization for better time management. And actually, let's take one step back. Power of lucid dreaming and divergent thinking. So this is an interesting thing. So if you've known about vision mapping before, but you've never heard about lucid dreaming is basically where when you are dreaming, you're able to become awake within the dream. Kind of sounds like Inception, right? But you become awake within the dream, and you can kind of interact with your subconscious. Now, this is an interesting conversation, not usually talked about after 2000. The year 2000, a lot of people don't talk about dreaming and kind of getting the most out of your dreams and how that relates to life. But a lot of the business with my brother, if you followed my story before, that actually came from a lucid dream when I was 18, and then we started a business when I was 20. So lucid dreaming and divergent thinking. And so divergent thinking is being able to look at a way of solving a problem and looking at it from a whole bunch of different angles. And they have found that there is a correlation between those that lucid dream and those that have kind of divergent thinking as kind of a basis, where they're not just looking at one singular thing that can accomplish it, kind of like math. Math is convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is looking at it from a whole bunch of different angles. So ways to utilize visualization for better time management. Number one would be finding mental clarity. So use the previous time mastery videos on meditation and creating space, really helping you to train your mind to avoid distractions. And then practice lucid dreaming. So I have a couple different resources on here that kind of give you some techniques and things like that you can use, outside resources for you. But really practicing visualization through lucid dreaming techniques can increase your creativity and mental well-being. And this is really where you can achieve lucid dreaming through a thing called reality testing. So how you do this is really having an understanding of your awareness. And in the next training, I'm going to talk about mindfulness and how that relates to all of your senses and kind of getting into the present moment, which allows you to let go of the past and embrace the future. And really, lucid dreaming is where you start becoming aware of your reality. Like, what does it look like in your reality? Am I dreaming right now? Asking yourself these different kinds of questions where it gets you kind of programmed to where when you're dreaming, you become aware of things that are a little bit off or a little bit unusual, like that signify that you're in a dream. An example, just as an example, would be in your dream. If you become awake within the dream, try to turn on a light switch. Usually, they don't turn off. That would be an example of something that you can do in reality, can't do in a dream. But reality testing is really where you're making a conscious note to check your surroundings and becoming aware of what's going on before you go to bed. And then you try to do that within the dream. So you're becoming aware of things and you become aware within the dream. And then once you've found something that is out of place that signals that you're in a dream, try practicing becoming aware of yourself within the dream without waking up. Kind of an interesting concept. And then the steps to creating and mapping your vision. This is kind of what we talked about before, where you get really clear on your future self and where you are right now, and then you kind of create some milestones. By starting to write down thoughts and creating a vision map allows you to have a tangible roadmap for your future. So instead of focusing so much on that distant future, you're starting to focus on the individual milestone of whatever's next. And what that does, it shortens the gap so you don't feel as much pain and hopelessness in bridging that gap. And so you can write down the goals, try to visualize what they might look like as an end result. You can visualize the journey to achieve the goals, gathering images of these goals and journey and complete them into a timeline to complete your map. And there's different resources in the bottom that help you do that. And then lastly, when you're applying your vision to everyday life, you're going to start looking at your daily goals and things that you're accomplishing throughout the day, and start to look at what the end result is. So instead of focusing on the tasks, the task list that you're getting through, start to focus on, what is the target? What am I trying to accomplish? And in the week, if there's one single thing that I did this week that would make all the difference in my life and business, what could that thing be? And start having targets. When you complete that, what's the next week? When you complete that, what's the next week? And if you align that towards your future self and the vision that you have, you're starting to move in a direction that you are completing targets rather than just completing tasks, or hitting targets instead of completing tasks. And so there's a couple different resources here. Power of Visualization from Forbes. There's some lucid dreaming techniques, vision mapping, which basically just gives you a bit more resources on this. And then there's a movie called Waking Life, which is super good. I've watched it so many different times. There's a trailer here. If it catches you and you like it, awesome. It's kind of an interesting one where there is they took a Canon digital camera and filmed all these different kind of shots, and then they had artists paint over, like electronically paint over each one of the screenshots, and then they switched artists every 30 seconds or so. So it's very visually appealing in general. I'm going to turn off this music here, but yeah, so everything, it's kind of interesting. Might be something worth checking out. They talk about lucid dreaming and visualization, and then they have some really deep talks about humanity and stuff. So anyway, there's some resources. So your action, if you're wanting to do this, would be two different things. One of them, create your own vision map. Get very clear on what your future self is. What do you want trying to achieve? Start looking at different milestones that you have that you would know that you're on track. Put a visual to it and create a vision map. Look at that every single day in order for you to take that visual and start to make it into a reality. And then the second thing is based around lucid dreaming, and start reading up about it. There's a couple different books on lucid dreaming. There's some resources. Just try different things. It's not easy. It might take 6 months in order for you to get a really good lucid dream. But when you can start to interact with your subconscious, it's a very interesting thing. And then you can ask yourself, what do I actually want out of my agency? What am I trying to accomplish here? What is fulfillment to me? If you remove everything culturally about scaling and growth and revenue for revenue's sake, right? What does success actually mean to you? Visualize it, put some image to it, and move forward with your day. Cheers.